Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So you've had an incredible career. What inspired you to turn all of your experiences into a book?
You know, actually, I was a tiny bit reluctant about it. I'd given a speech at the Naval Academy to the midshipmen there, and the Naval Institute, who's the press that released that book and published it, approached me and said, would you mind, or are you able to take that speech and turn it into a short book, 50 or 60,000 words? And my immediate thought was, of everyone I know, everyone I've worked with, I'd rather them write the book, not me, because I've had incredible mentors, incredible teammates. And as we went back and forth, my wife said to me, she said, you know, I know you want it to be them writing it, but they're asking you, so why don't you write this book about them? And I thought, well, wish I'd thought of that myself. It's genius, but that's in fact what I did. So I was able to reconnect with old friends and old teammates and wingmen and go through, a career's worth of stories that are hopefully do the job of illustrating some of these important lessons that I felt like were very relevant in my career and have applicability in everyday life. And then the other aspect for the book that I think gives me a great deal of pride is the fact that all of the proceeds go to a charity called the Wingman Foundation. And I had come back to the Blue Angels in 2016 after the mishap of Jeff Coos, who passed at an air show in Nashville, Tennessee. And I replaced him, and there's a charity called the Wingman Foundation who supported his family and a number of other Navy and Marine Corps families. So I am grateful to some degree that they continue to do great work and that this book in some small way sends the proceeds to them.
What a great organization. And obviously your wife is very wise in how she encouraged you to write this book, Commander. Lead solo, and we have a copy of the book here, and thank you for that, draws some parallels between flying and leadership. So what's one lesson from the cockpit maybe that applies to all of us in everyday life?
Sure. One of the things that the Blue Angels do better than most is we communicate. And I don't mean that in the way that you probably think. We, of course, communicate in our air show, and we fly over Lake Washington all the time, right? So I've done that air show with you guys more times than I can remember. And we communicate in the airplane while we fly. That's how the show works. But the real secret sauce for the Blue Angels is the communication that happens afterwards. And we will go as a team, not just the pilots, but the entire team, and sit in a room and go through every single thing that we did wrong that day. And if we did it right, we're not going to spend much time on it because we've done it right. But we will, person to person, name our mistakes, our failures, anything that we thought we could have done better. And by doing that, and by being confident enough to admit your own mistakes, you really find ways to advance as a team. And so it allows us to offer constructive criticism instead of just a very blunt debrief. And so I think from a communication perspective, that really is critical. And from a leadership perspective, if you're the senior person in any organization, in any relationship, if you're not willing to admit what you've done wrong, then the people under you certainly won't. And so I'd say that's one of the best takeaways I got from my time on the Blue Angels, and it certainly has relevance in everyday life for me.
Yeah, communication is so important. Thank you so much for sharing that comparison. So as we mentioned, you have flown in high stress, high stakes situations. How do you stay calm and focused when things get tense?
I think you have to be prepared. Naval aviation does a great job of that. Before you ever strap an airplane on your back, you know everything that can go wrong, and you know exactly what to do when it does go wrong. And so I had an air show flying over, I think it was Lake Michigan, off of the out of the Milwaukee airport, and we flew through a flock of seagulls, and I lost immediately my right engine, and the left one slowly powered down too. But there's a very specific procedure when you're in slow flight and you lose a motor, and if you execute it, then it works just fine. And so the ability to know what could go wrong, plan for it, and then rehearse it over and over again. And the Blue Angels do such a great job of preparing each of the pilots through hundreds of sorties and training. And I do think that allows us to fly this show. If you watch us fly in March or April, we're really far away. But then by the time we get to you guys in July and August, and certainly by the end of the season in October, November, we're much, much closer. And we do that through trust and through experience.
And what a treat it is for us to be spectators of what you guys do in the air every single year at Seafair. I understand that you flew the stunts in Top Gun Maverick, and just give us some behind the scenes perspective here. What was that experience like being part of the movie, and how realistic was the movie's flying that's portrayed in that film?
What I think is so incredible about that movie is that what you see on the big screen, we actually flew. Wow. Unlike almost every other major motion picture that involves aviation, where one, it's expensive, and two, it's dangerous. And so they can use computer graphics to fake basically all airborne scenes. But I do believe Tom was very insistent that if we're going to do it, we're going to do it for real. He's obviously a very accomplished aviator and is comfortable in the airplane, so he wanted to do it the right way. So we flew thousands of hours with actors in the back seat, Tom flying his own P-51 in the movie, and we did this over and over again because the actors can act. They can go through their lines, they can have the right emotion, the right expressions, but they can't act like they're under 7 Gs. They have to be under 7 Gs while they act. And that's a really critical aspect of this. So to watch that play out, to watch them do such a great job portraying naval aviation was really, I thought, just tremendous.
Commander, I just wanted to show this photo too, if we can, on camera 1 here. This is a picture in the book, Lead Solo, that shows him, Frank, flying at low altitude, and that's one of the shots that you see in the film. Isn't that cool?
That is so cool. Wow. I love to hear that behind-the-scenes perspective as well. I was an actor, you know. That's something to experience.
Absolutely,
for sure.
Yeah.
Commander, as Veterans Day approaches, what message do you just want to leave about service and sacrifice?
You know, I think one of gratitude, and gratitude on both sides. I think it's easy for me as someone who has served but is not now. I'm grateful that there are men and women, that I have brothers and sisters that are still out there taking off. I mean, it's 12 o'clock in Georgia right now, but it's midnight in the Middle East, and so a lot of my friends and former shipmates are taking off the front end of an aircraft carrier into the darkness right now, and that's scary and it's dangerous. And so I'm grateful that they're still holding the line. And I'm also personally grateful that I had the chance to serve. For me, it's a real blessing to have been able to serve my country, to be trusted, to be allowed to be put in these positions. And so it was, you know, the most formative years of my life, but also the very best. And so in both cases, I'd say for me, the primary emotion is one of gratitude.
Commander, thank you so much for your service and joining us the day before Veterans Day. I just have to say, I was looking through some of the photos in this book, and I think one of my favorites is it shows you meeting your daughter, Caroline, for the first time after that 8-month deployment back in 2013. What a moment that was captured, I'm sure, for you and your family.
Yeah, it's a story as old as time for military families, but yeah, it's a wonderful homecoming when you come home to a newborn.
Yeah, those homecomings are special. Thank you so much for joining us, and once again, congrats on the book.
Thanks for having me.
Miraculous.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you think about what he's seen and experienced, and just, you know, the insight of being behind the controls of the Blue Angels, his time in the military, being part of this really epic movie that so many people have loved and watched. It's just incredible.
And the message on leadership as well. I love what he said about leaders. You know, no matter what industry you're in, there's that baseline of good communication and how that can just make your operation run smoothly.
Communication is key. Again, the book is called Lead Solo by Frank Weisser. We're going to add more information on our website at komonews.com/hotlinks if you want to check that out.